Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Suggestion Sunday number 5. Now, it has been a little while since we had a Suggestion Sunday episode, and I do apologize for that. I've just been incredibly busy over the last couple of weeks, but we're here now, so let's get right into it. This week, we are playing some Steel Division 44. And this is a 1v1 between myself and none other than Swert on the Discord. So, the map is Mount Ormel. I am playing the American 3rd Armored Division, and Swert is playing the Panzer Lair. So, for those of you who have never seen Steel Division 44 before, it's basically a real-time strategy game without the base building aspect. These points you see here are your income per phase, and the phases last 10 minutes. You get different units in each phase depending on what you bring in. So it's definitely a very... I really like this game, to be honest. There's a lot of cool mechanics to it as well. So without any further ado, like I said, this is Mount Ormel 1v1. We are going to be looking at this from the neutral perspective. I am going to speed up the deployment because this was a fairly lengthy deployment. So let's look at the units coming down on Swert's side, shall we? We have a pair of Kubel MG. No, we have a Kubel MG and a SDKFZ 251 with some recon on the bottom side. Another Kubel with recon and another 251. Multiple 251s in the middle, followed up with a 258. Now, this is a fantastic fire support vehicle. The 258 with that 9 HE on its main gun, and that does so much work against infantry. On the top side, we have a Kubel with some command infantry, another Kubel MG with some recon, another 258, and 2 more units of recon. So we're investing incredibly heavily into the recon here early. Even more recon coming down, command and recon there. If we hop over to my side, I did take a while with my deployment. As you can see, I'm the 3rd Armored, so most of my infantry comes in half tracks. I have an M8 Scott, which is a fantastic counter for that 258 on Swert's side. It's got a, it's just a good gun. This is just a great little fire support vehicle. I'm also bringing in some recon with a Jeep 30, as well as some armored rifles in a half track and a M21 mortar half track. That'll just be some excellent fire support there. Now, in the middle, I have a Jeep with some recon in it and another unit of armored rifles in a half-track. On a little further down, bringing in some more armored rifles with another command unit. Command is incredibly important. And on the bottom side, I just have an M8 recon vehicle for the time being. So we are going to continue to speed this deployment up a little bit. Like I said, this is a rather lengthy deployment. I think it's about 7 minutes. I end up swapping out the M8 in favor of just a recon unit there to be able to throw another unit of, well, let's see, actually. I can't remember. Let's see. Oh, yes, an MG and a recon unit down on the bottom side. I'm pretty sure that's what I ended up going with. It was mostly me that took a very long time for the deployment in this game. I do end up throwing another recon unit here. No, never mind. I'm very indecisive. And we are off. So let's go ahead and drop it back to speed 1. Now, as you can see, all the units are deploying. Let's go ahead and look at where everyone is being deployed here on my side. Pretty decent deployments. Fast moves and unload at position orders queued up there. As far as Swert goes, yeah, just a bunch of interesting move orders. Just unload at position. I'm not sure what the I think the blue is just move. So as we can see, Swert bringing in a massive amount of recon in the early game, and this did actually play some havoc with me. And one thing Swert did not realize in this game is that recon actually doesn't hold the front line forward. So that definitely had a bit of an impact. Now I have my scouts down here to spot anything trying to push in here. Also getting my scouts up here with return fire on. Armored rifles hopping out. These armored rifles are great. They have bazookas and they come in these half tracks. These M3 half tracks have 50 cals and are just absolutely beast mode. Alright, So most of my units getting into position at this point. I do deploy the MG quite a ways back on this bottom side, not wanting to invest too heavily into it. And that does give Swert the early 54% map control. So he is getting that +1 right now. His command coming in here, definitely pushing this salient, because as you can see, these scouts are not holding the line forward. So everyone just getting into position right now. This 2-star half-track is pretty sweet. Just deploying some more armored rifles here to cover the open, possibly. In hindsight, I wish I'd deployed them here into this town. That would have definitely been better. Now, I'm just advancing my infantry all across the map. Swert has a large-ish push set up in the middle with all of these Aufklärer and Spa troops. Probably am butchering this, but you know what? It's fine. It's fine. Butchering pronunciations is what happens on this channel. As we can see, Swert's bringing in another Kubel with more recon and another 251 with more recon. I decide to bring in the M8 Greyhound recon on the bottom side, and this is a fantastic unit. 7 AP, allowing it to deal with most armor fairly effectively. I do have my mortar half-track opening up here onto Swert's 251. A little bit, and then I decided to go ahead and drop some smoke on this road. I was planning to advance, but I actually didn't end up following this up. This is actually really good smoke in general right here. I'm actually during the game, I wasn't sure if this smoke was actually going to be useful or not, and I was trying to smoke this 258 off from the half track, but it didn't work. Didn't work too well. So I do try and advance the armored rifles here, but they just get absolutely annihilated in the open. On the bottom side, not a lot happening. I do clean up the salient with that M8. But fortunately enough, this M3A1 half-track with the 50 cal is providing some decent fire support right now, as well as the M21 mortar. Trying to get these Spa troop dealt with, but again, it's going to be kind of tough. I think I go for smoke here. Yes, trying to save that half-track. I do get the half-track smoked off, and saving these half-tracks is incredibly important for the 3rd Armored. Now we can see Swert bringing up an AT gun. I believe this is a PAC 38. This thing wreaked some havoc on some of my units. And as we can see, he's also bringing one in on the bottom side, but it looks like he has forgotten about it overall. Just trying to keep everything micro. Bringing in another Kubel. Swert investing very heavily into recon here. Now with the mortar, I am just starting to go ahead and lay down some suppressing fire here into the middle. I am going to try and get these armored rifles moved back up. It doesn't end up working out too well. I wasn't sure what was here, so I was really just shelling this forest. And as you can see, I kind of ceased shelling it there. In hindsight, I kind of wish I'd kept going, because there's some Spa troop there. Now, as we can see on this top side, I do advance with my armored rifles and annihilate that Kubel, opening up that salient here, because this Aufklärer does not provide any frontline presence. So the M8 Greyhound down here dealing with some of these 251s, which is fantastic. That's the main reason I brought it in all honesty. And that's going to allow me to kind of push back closer to that 50-50 territory-wise. There we go. 251 goes down. Half-track holding this little town here. In hindsight, again, I wish I had moved these armored rifles up a little further, but regardless, I do move the Jeep 30 cal up here and to try and spot some stuff, and it does end up getting taken out by that Aufklärer. The Kubel MG does not get involved. I was hoping the M8 Scott could provide some better fire support. Now I decide to bring in a Stuart on the top side, as well as some more armored rifles. As we can see, Swert getting this AT gun moving again. Now he's bringing up 2 command units and a 258. Interesting choice on his part. I do have this little salient here now, which is quite nice, holding with the armored rifles and the M8 Scott. In the middle here, laying down some suppressive fire with this M21. This was in a great spot most of the game. This orchard was just amazing for that. Decided to bring up an M8 Scott down here as well to provide some fire support in this open area. Not a lot really happening on this bottom side right now. I'm kind of just trying to hold I do also decide to bring up a Stuart and an M20 command here, so that is going to help out. With that Pack 38 unloading, though, I do need to get some fire on that quickly. Get it pinned down before it can really do any damage. The Greyhound also helping out there, which is quite nice. So we're going to keep that Pack 50 just pinned down, unable to fire. But Swerd does bring up a Panzerwerfer to go ahead and try and provide some fire support for that. It looks like it's about to unload. There we go. We can see that firing here at this M8 Scott and this half-track. Little moment of panic for myself ensued here. It's just, oh god, save the half-track and the M8. These are both open-top vehicles, by the way, so they are incredibly susceptible to, well, they can be incredibly susceptible to artillery. Fortunately enough, this M3 does back through the fire quickly. Now I decide to finally bring these armored rifles down into this town. I should have done that quite a while ago. This Pack 38 is opening up, being rather a nuisance. I decided to go ahead and move the M8 and the Scouts over a little bit, just to see what I can come up with. I do manage to find and kill off that Pack 38, which is a very nice for me, anyway. So, bringing up this M5A1 Stuart now. On Swerd's side, he's not really bringing in much in the way of reinforcements. These two command units just kind of chilling up here. Now they're getting moving, which is kind of nice. This 258 has not moved up in a while. We just see Swerd kind of setting up a solid defensive line that I kind of had some trouble with most of the game. But on this bottom side, you can see I'm starting to go ahead and try and push through. Decide to back the M8 off a little bit. Do get line of sight onto this Panzerwerfer with the M5A1, and I think, ooh, bouncing off of the Panzerwerfer there. That is highly unfortunate. Now, I'm not able to get another shot on that, but the M20 command is able to open up onto it a little bit. So, getting a little damage there. This command infantry down here just holding the line for the time being. Another Hunt M5A1 on the way right now. As we can see, this Panzerwerfer is reloading, preparing to fire another salvo, but I have a nice armored push on the bottom side. In the middle, not a lot of action, just kind of a stalemate. Now, I am preparing a push on this top side, trying to take out, well, I was very unsure what was over here. I was expecting Panzergrens, honestly, but it's just Aufklär and a Kubel, in all honesty. So as we can see here, I do get eyes on this Pack 38, so go ahead. I decide to go ahead and start unloading some artillery into it. End up hitting the Kubel and the Pack a little bit. Now, Swerd does bring some more mechanized support up. But on this bottom side, the Aufklär get revealed and are just annihilated by this armored push I have prepared. And the Panzerwerfer is under fire right now, which I am very pleased about. The M8 moving up, the M8 Scott and the M8 Greyhound moving up, as well as the M5 and these armored rifles. The Panzerwerfer falling back. Now in the middle here, I do reveal this at 251 and start unloading into it a little bit. Another Stuart on the way. I believe this is... No, this Stuart goes to the middle. That's right. As some extra fire support there. We do go ahead and find this Kubel with the tanks, but I do go... the M20 command does go down to Swerd's. Very well placed Pack 38. Very well placed indeed. Now, one of my, probably one of the biggest issues I had on this bottom side were these AT guns, and I probably should have brought up some fire support for that. As we can see, Swerd bringing in a bomber here, trying to halt this armored push somewhat, and he does manage to put a lot of stress onto this M5. This bar at the, I should mention, this bar at the top is the stress meter. Once it maxes out, the unit gets pinned down, as you can see. And as that bar fills up, the unit is less accurate. So making a nice little push here on the bottom, I do go ahead and push back to a 50-50 now. And there is that mortar half-track I should have brought up much sooner. We have entered Phase B, though, and both of us are now getting some more reinforcement points. As we can see, Swerd bringing in a Panzer IV-H on the top side. Good choice. This is a fantastic tank overall. On the bottom, though, this Panzerwerfer opening up once again, pinning my rifles, forcing the M5 to fall back, and almost pinning down this M8 and forcing it back as well. Not ideal, but the M21 is moving up. Swert has decided to move his Panzergrens into this wood area. I do move the M1917 up, and that actually does do a fairly good job at dealing with this Panzergrenführer. They do have 6 HE at this short range, but this 1917 has 8 HE, so do barely win out on that engagement. That does push the territory back closer to a 50-50. This Greyhound is opening up on that, no, it is opening up on this 251, excuse me. So let's see, will that Greyhound pick up the kill? It's not looking like it. This mortar is in a rather interesting location. I decided to go ahead and bring a Stuart down here to try and support that, but the ammo storage hit there on the 251 will basically keep that from really doing a whole lot, and the 251 does go down. Now in the middle, we see an engagement here between the M5 and another 258 and this 251 half-track. I do try and push across with the armored rifles again. It appears this 258 really is getting the better of my M3 half-track, so I am going to pull that back. Preparing a little armored push here potentially. More just kind of trying to hold the front line with these half-tracks. Now, I do decide to bring the M5 over there to reinforce a little bit, and there we go, bringing up the first of the M4s in the division. This is just an M4, so it does only have 11 AP and 9 frontal armor, but this is a command M4, so that's going to provide an extra star of veterancy to every one of these units. Okay, another thing I should mention, I apologize for not mentioning this sooner, is that these stars are unit veterancy. The more stars a unit has, the better they're going to be in general. Now we see this 258 opening up in the middle on the half-track. Fuel explosion on the 258 up here. I do get the armored rifles into that, but this Panzer IV-H providing some good fire support as well as this Kubel MG. Now, I do start backing the M8 Scott off, and I'm not sure... start engaging the Panzergrens with it. The Panzergrenführer, I should say. On this bottom side, another half-track going down for Swert, thanks to this M5, I believe. Got the kill there. And in the middle, we're just holding right now. Do get that 258 dealt with. Bringing in some recon to figure out what is going on. This Kubel MG is just chilling here for right now. It's just chilling. We have the Panzer IV set up in the middle there. This Panzergrenführer is going to get pinned down and pushed back very shortly. He is just pinned currently, so not really doing a whole lot there. I do jump up into the next building and take that Kubel out with the armored rifles bazooka. That does put them in a position to take some fire from the Panzer IV, but it also spots that Panzergrenführer and allows me to take that out with the M8 Scott. Now on the top side, I do decide to bring in a Sherman Jumbo, and this is the signature unit of the 3rd Armored. 20 front armor, only 11 AP, but it is what it is. In the middle, I do take down another half-track, deciding to move my armored leader up. Not the best plan in the world. They're not the greatest unit for it. But that does go ahead and reveal this Spa Troop, which will allow this M5 to get both of its machine guns and its main gun on target and just mow down these Spa Troop. Even if they are in heavy cover, does a significant amount of damage. Now on the top side, you can see Swert bringing in quite a bit of infantry in these 251s, and another bombing strike coming in as well. This one was rather devastating, actually. Basically, it just shuts that push down for me, stresses out all of those units. What I would have done here with Swert is probably brought a tank in through here, then once those were pinned, just annihilate them. Now, my recon is just sitting here, which is kind of unfortunate. I do forget to unload that, but the Pak-38 is going to go ahead and reveal itself to these charging half-tracks and just get absolutely mown down by those 50 cal. Taking out some more of Swert's recon, setting up a decent little spot on the bottom side, but we can see the SPW-233 did engage my M5 down here and force it to fall back. Now the Panzerwerfer coming in again, and this Swert did a good job of using this Panzerwerfer to just basically lock down sections of the map this game. So credit where credit's due, and then following it up with the Pak-38. Fantastic play there, forcing the M8 Scott out of cover and into the open where it could just take some fire. That does reveal the Pak-38 though, so I am going to start targeting that with the M21. Little engagement here in the middle between some Aufklärer and armored rifles, as well as a couple of half-tracks. On the top side, though, the Jumbo is slowly making its way up, but I have pushed through in the middle and sitting at a 55% territory lead right now. So, quite pleased about that. This 258 is going to try and do something about that, potentially. We do see Swert bringing in a couple of command units in these 251-3s. Not the best in the world. Swert does decide to move some Panzergrens up here. And I am going to be engaging those, pinning them down. This Panzer IV not really in a spot to open fire right now. My armored rifles not exactly in cover either. I thought they were in this building, but it is what it is. On the bottom side, you can see another push coming through. I decided to push up with the M5 and the armored rifles, as well as try and push into this little compound here. Now sitting at a 56% territory lead, but a Panzer IV coming in on the bottom from Swert. Hopefully, Swert's going to try and use this to stop the push a little bit. Now, I do have a very large salient growing here. Quite pleased about that. Swert bringing in this 257 mortar carrier, trying to stem the bleeding somewhat at this point. But the Panzer IV is moving up to attempt to engage this Jumbo and Scott. These armored rifles are pinned down by the 251 and the Panzer IV, followed up by some Panzergrens. My Jeep 30 cal does start to get forced back a little bit. I have the Jumbo engaging on this 251, which is going to force it back. The Jeep 30 cal is also going to open up on that a little bit, but the Panzer IV does open up there. The M8 Scott is not in line of sight of that Panzer IV, and the 251 does go down, but that forces my armored rifles back as well as the M8 Scott. That does force it out of line of sight. The armored rifles here do actually bump into that 251 and Panzergren squad and just get annihilated. Bringing in an airstrike, though, on that Panzer IV-H, do manage to make it fall back, but on the bottom side here, we see Swert's mortar going ahead and pinning down my armored rifles before they can really push up into this next compound. Panzer IV-H just chilling here. The Panzerwerfer is about reloaded, which is not ideal. We'll see if we can catch that next strike. Swert brought in a fighter to try and shoot down my plane. I don't believe he actually pulled it off. But these Panzergrens reloading, aiming. Oh, the M8 Scott just out of line of sight. Swert trying to use this plane to scout this ME-109 G6R6 to scout a little bit. Making a bit of an armored push back into the middle with these 251-3s and the Panzergrenführers. As we can see, he does try and push up onto my armored rifles squad with this Kubel MG, and that Kubel MG is going to go down. But the Aufklärer not revealing themselves. Very nice there. The Panzer IV is pushing up. I have taken this town. But the armored rifles pushing up there, trying to get that bazooka shot onto the Panzer IV-H. Not going to find it, though. It's out of line of sight. On this top side, we see the Panzergrenführer, the Panzergrens pinned down, and the Jumbo charge around the corner and kill off that Panzer IV and force the surrender of those Panzergrens. So that was a very dangerous engagement. The thing about these AP numbers is these numbers only apply at maximum range. So, yeah. But at the same time, it's still pretty... it's still a pretty good chance of bouncing pretty much anything off your frontal armor with a Sherman Jumbo. That's the signature unit of this 3rd Armored. Now in the middle again, a bit of a skirmish going on between these 251s and my scouts and this armored rifles unit, which is heavily damaged. I do forget about this command infantry I brought up. Should have probably started moving up everything at this point to support the push in the front. Here, however, this bottom side, I have managed to push through this line of trees. I do hold the salient here, now having the +2 map control with that 59 Oh, excuse me, the +2 score tick with that 59% map control. Finding Swerd's 257 here with the M5 and this M3, trying to take that out in relatively short order. But Swerd bringing a Befehl Panzer 4H, Command Panzer 4 here. The 251, or the 253 does go down there, but it also does find that Stuart and take, well, the M50, the half-track goes down, but the bomber comes in, takes down this half-track. And this M5 engaging this Befehl Panzer IV, not the most ideal engagement in the world by any stretch of the imagination. On this top side, I am creating a bit of a salient, but it appears Swerd is making a bit of a pushback here through the middle, and we can see now a second Befehl Panzer IV coming up. These 251s are bringing in flamethrower squads to kind of help try and hold this area. The Panzerwerfer is aiming as well. This thing was a pain in the ass. Now I am bringing in an AT gun here to try and deal with this Befehl Panzer IV. In hindsight, I wish I'd brought it to the top, but it is what it is. I did bring in an M20 Command in on the top side to go ahead and give some veterancy to these armored units here. I really don't have a whole lot of infantry right now. These Panzergrens in a very good location. Little engagement here in the middle between a couple of half-tracks. Just some skirmishes, of course. Nothing major. On this bottom side, though, beautiful Panzerwerfer strike coming down, pinning the rifles, forcing the M8 to fall back, pinning my scouts down out in the open. But I have another M5 on the way and another M5 already here to kind of help counteract that somewhat. So we are going to pin these SPA troop down. The recon is arriving to kind of help deal with that. Now I am bringing in a P-38 Lightning here to go ahead and try and pin down these units. Not the most successful bombing strike. Swerd is going to try and counter that with an ME-109 G6R6, but I have my own P-51D Mustang coming on in, and I am going to win that initial battle there. But we can see here Swerd's half-track going down. The Sturm Pioneers are getting pinned down, but the second Befehl Panzer 4H has arrived here in the mid. M5 gun here preparing to try and take on these Panzer 4s. Panzer 4 engaging this M3 half-track. Moment of panic ensues. The M5 Stuart does go down. This Bofors right here is taking quite a pounding from this half-track. And we see the M3 go down there as well. Scouts are still pinned down. The M8 has been forced all the way back. It is completely out of 50 cal ammo. It's still got some 30 cal ammo. But beyond, it's got 11 HE shells. And I'm pretty sure I actually got that fighter. I can't remember. But now we see Swerd bringing in some more infantry on this bottom side in an attempt to stem the bleeding and a bombing strike to kind of push this force back here. Pretty successful bombing strike, honestly. Again, probably should have followed it up with some form of AT, but Swerd's Panzergrenführer does go down there. My scouts are just chilling here. Just chilling. Do decide to strafe one of these Befehl Panzer IVs. Bringing in a few more armored rifle units on the one on the top, one in the mid, and another jumbo coming on in. These jumbos are great. I love them. They're amazing. But these Befehl Panzer IVs are causing me some issues right now. This Jeep 30 cal is under a bit of pressure. These Sturm Pioneers decided to go ahead and reveal themselves by firing at my scouts, which is actually going to cause them to get pinned down before they can get the scouts down, I believe. Nope, never mind. Never mind, I lied. But as we can see here, this Befehl Panzer IV pushing into a dangerous location. Does take out this M3 half-track, but my armored rifles do find the bazooka shot into the side armor and take that Befehl Panzer IV down. You can see the Panzerwerfer on the bottom side, though, preparing to fire, but I am deciding to go ahead and bring up some more armor to help kind of counteract that. This Befehl Panzer IV is in a really good spot. These armored rifles just getting absolutely torn apart there. Now on this top side, we do see Swerd bringing in some more Sturm Pioneers in these 251 half-tracks. This unit of Panzergrens just chilling. Just chilling. Did bring some more infantry up there myself. Back down to the +1 right now with the 55% territory lead. Do get a decent little bombing strike onto that Panzer IV, but I'm not really able to follow it up, unfortunately. But it is what it is. The mortar half-track is unloading onto this infantry that I have spotted here. Actually, no, I'm laying smoke. I apologize. Panzer IV-H is going to get driver knocked out, track wheel destroyed from this M5 Stuart, the hero Stuart right there, with the kill on the Befehl Panzer IV-H. The hero M5A1 taking down a Panzer IV. Now, this Panzerwerfer strike came down on the bottom side here. Not the most effective in the world. I didn't really have anything down here, minus this M1917 machine gun. But on the top side, do go ahead and clean up those Panzergrens with just kind of overwhelming numbers there from the 3rd Armored. And now just deciding to move up and try and put the final nail in the coffin here. Internal fire on this 251 with the Sturm Pioneers. Swert does get the Sturm Pioneers unloaded, but it's unlikely that 251 is going to make it out of there. And we see the 251 go down there. 251 goes down there to the M5 gun as well. And it pins down these Sturm Pioneers. Now, Swert does bring in a Flak 41. These are fantastic AT and AA units in general. But we can see Swert getting some very good recon in here. That's probably how he was able to really see what I was up to so much. I was kind of wondering about that. Deciding to bring in another MG on the bottom side to try and counter this infantry that is building up here. Now we do see the Panzer IV-H with off-map coming on in, and that's very interesting. And a second Panzer IV as well on this bottom side. So a large push coming in for Swert on this bottom. But I am up to the +2 once again. These Panzergrens reveal themselves, and my god, just look at the amount of fire that came in on that. How they survived that is beyond me. I am pushing the Salient out just with this Jeep 30 cal pretty much. Just because. And at this point I decide, okay, let's shell the forest a little bit more. Did move this M21 up into a much better position. On the bottom side, this M21's just not really all that useful. I deploy the M3 in a rather unfortunate location, I would say, but these Panzergrens do go ahead and get pinned down, and they do take out one of my half-tracks, but that is going to reveal them, and they just get annihilated by the massed fire of armor and support vehicles there. But as we can see on this bottom side, massive push preparing to come in from Swert. He's opening up with the Panzerwerfer, following up with the off-map, trying to get as much damage in there as he can. But the spot troop do get revealed and get taken down, taking away part of his eyes. This does pin down my M4A3 with the 75, and now we see the push coming in on the bottom side. M3 half-track opening up, still not unloading that MG unit yet. The M4A375 pushed back, as well as the Greyhound, but the Panzer IV-H is also getting pushed back by this M5A1, keeping these Pioneers pinned down. Fantastic little push here. Now just massed fire on this infantry trying to push out into the open. I do bring in some bombing strikes to try and take down that Panzer IV, as well as try and pin this infantry down. Swert does bring in a Focke-Wulf 190 to try and counter that, but I am going to get onto the tail of that with the P51D Mustang. And it appears this push is not really, is actually kind of running out of steam for Swert on the bottom. Massed support fire coming in from all of this armor, just kind of pinning this infantry before it really gets a chance to do much of anything. The Greyhound in a dangerous location. 251 goes down there. Greyhound backing off. The Mustang comes in to strafe the Pioneers. Again, the 251 falling back, bringing in a Lightning for the bombing strike there. That is going to go ahead and take out those Sturm Pioneers and the 251. Still massed amounts of fire coming down. This Panzer IV does have transmission damage, so it is going to be moving a bit slower, but in all honesty, The Jumbo is going to keep it pinned down relatively easy while the rest of the tanks deal with the infantry that was left out in the open. And up to a 64% territory lead. While that was happening, I made a bit of a push on this top side, bringing in a second Jumbo up here, pushing on through, leaving this Jumbo down here as fire support. That Aufklärer was there the entire game and did some serious work. These poor Pioneers, though, just getting absolutely hammered. So we're bringing down another off-map strike here. And up to the +3 overall for map control at this point. Now, I do bump into these Sturm Pioneers here with some armored LMG rifles. This is a great unit available in Phase B for the 3rd Armored. Fantastic unit. These Sturm Pioneers are really good, too. You just have to make sure you get the first shot off with them, pretty much. Still on this bottom side, though, I do charge up with the M8, force the surrender on a unit of infantry here, and clean up those Pioneers. And that is going to deal with that little push Swert had on the bottom side. Now moving all of my tanks out of that off-map. Rather unfortunate off-map there for Swert, not really able to accomplish much of anything there. But on the top side, we see an armored push. We have the Königstiger H, a Panzer IV-H, and a Panther D. So Swert looking to break through this armored push I have set up myself. These Sturm Pioneers are getting found and pretty much annihilated. The Jumbo here is opening up onto this SDKFZ-7. Little support vehicle for that Flak 41. I do go ahead and bring in the P-31 Lightnings on this Panzer IV-H and get the transmission damage and force it backwards. As we can see, Swert in general looking a little thin on the ground overall. Decide to bring in a P-51 here, strafe that Fokker-Wulf. He was not the Fokker-Wulf was not actually targeted onto the P-51 there, so that is going to allow me to get onto the tail of the Fokker-Wulf and drop that bad boy down. But again, the armored push coming in here, and that Flak 41 is opening up on this P-51. Not the most ideal position, kind of blocked by the trees there. Unfortunately, we can see Swert bringing up some more infantry on this bottom side, but at this point, I'm just kind of sitting here, just chilling, holding my 66% territory lead. Do bump into this Panzergrenadier with the armored rifles up here. I think the Panzergrenadier is going to get the better of these armored rifles, just due to the fact that these armored rifles are already stressed out quite a bit. But bringing up some more there, and we see the armored spearhead push. And I see this coming, and it's, oh dear. Internal fire on the Jumbo already, losing some ammunition. That Königstiger able to get some serious fire there. Does bounce off the front of one of the Jumbos, but we see the Panther coming in here for a sneaky push. And all of this infantry is going for the middle here. I'm able to hold this down pretty easily with what is there. But on the top side, the M8 Scott is being engaged by this Panther D, which I am engaging with both of the Jumbos at this point. Königstiger not able to find the second hit there on the other Jumbo, and we do see the M8 Scott go down, unfortunately. Now, I am changing fire. I have the back Jumbo firing at the Panther and the front Jumbo firing at the Panzer. Königstiger bounces another shot off of this Jumbo, and another shot. That's why these Jumbos are just stupid, are just ridiculous. I love them. But we can see the Jumbo turning its side armor here to the Königstiger, not able to find that kill. Forces the Jumbo back, though. And we can see these Panzergrenadiers do get cleaned up, but it does cost me an armored rifles and a half-track. The Jumbo engaging again. Now, I do bring in the entirety of the Air Force on this Königstiger, and it is literally unfazed. I bring in the bombing strike on this Panther D in an attempt to drop it. And we can see it's reversing with its side armor exposed here. But unfortunately, even though we've had M5s be absolute heroes in the past, not really able to find it. That Königstiger focusing the M5, there, and we can see a bit of an air engagement happening above these tanks as well. On the bottom side, the infantry from Swert here just kind of chilling out, not unloaded. He's focusing his micro on this top side. These jumbos are still alive. Falling back, the front one is falling back now, but the rear jumbo is opening up onto this Panther D. Not able to find the kill there. Try to smoke off that jumbo, but the Königstiger does go ahead and find the kill. Swert does win out that air battle, but the mast, I do bring up some AA that helps, and beyond that, things are just not looking ideal for the Panzerlehr. I'm still sitting at a 65% victory right now. We see this Panzer IV-H pushing up aggressively onto this M5 half-track. That is also going to push directly into a jumbo, and that is going to force the surrender of that Panzer IV there. Now, the Panther is recovering a little bit, and the Königstiger is still pushing up. That M5 is as the engine destroyed, so it's not going anywhere. On this bottom side, trying to open up on some of this infantry that Swert is now spreading out. He is bringing in a Panther A in the middle, and that is a little bit scary. Going for another bombing strike here on this Königstiger, just doing everything I can to pin it down. And that does do a lot of damage to it, but the second jumbo on this top side does go down, unfortunately. Meanwhile, I did bring in another M4 on this top side. Do bounce off the front of the Königstiger, but forcing that to fall back. Now trying to charge it down with a Jeep 30 cal and this M3 half-track in an attempt to get the surrender and pin this Panther D down. It's not exactly going all that well. Bringing the M20 Command over to provide some veterancy to these vehicles. That is going to expose the M20 Command to enemy fire, though. Forcing the Panther D back there. Can't force the Königstiger back just yet, and that is going to kill off the Jeep 30 cal pretty much exclusively with its machine guns. At least I think it killed it off. I don't remember. We can see this Panther A coming in the middle, and that's all she wrote. Mont Ormel, excuse me. Fantastic game there. Absolute pleasure playing against Swert. I always do enjoy whenever we play Steel Division. So let's go ahead and check it out. Total victory for me as the third armor. 3,100 kills to 1,840 losses. Pretty impressive. Pretty pleased overall. I'm pretty pleased with that. It was a fun game. I know Swert had a good time. Let's look at the kills. These armored rifles did some serious work. This M8 did some work as well. And then where is this hero? This M5 did some... These stewards do some serious work if you can keep them on point. Pool not really doing a lot. Did drop that Kubel MG. Not too bad. This jumbo was a hero, though. That jumbo did some serious work. But I think the real hero is this M5 right here. Look at that. Befell Panzer IV, Spa Troop, Sturm Pioneer, multiple half-tracks, and some more Spa Troop. Good times. Now, on the other side, we do see this Befell Panzer IV did clean up quite a few different units, as well as, where is that Königstiger? Königstiger did clean up both of the jumbos on the top side, and that Panther A in the middle cleaned up the half-track. But overall, fantastic game. Once again, I do want to thank Swert for playing this with me. It was an absolute blast. And yeah, that's going to go ahead and do it for this week's Suggestion Sunday video on Steel Division 44. Normandy 44, excuse me. As always, I would like to thank you for tuning in and spending a little part of your day here. It is greatly appreciated. If you've enjoyed the video, please do drop a like down below, as it really does help the channel out, and subscribe for more diversified content in the future. If you would like to become a part of Suggestion Sunday, i.e. where you, the patron, suggests games for me to play on Sunday and make a video about, please do take a moment to check out the Patreon. Link is in the description. And if you would like to join a growing community over on Discord, there is a link to that as well. My name is Ori. I do hope you have a fantastic day, and we will catch you in the next one.